Welcome to the Robert Painter on YouTube. Before we get started, be sure and like and subscribe, or you can do that at the end. But that way we let all the YouTube gods know that you're watching, and they put it in front of more people, and we get to have a bigger audience. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about taping our paintings so that they have a nice, clean, sharp edge all the way around. I just use this typical painter's tape from my local house paint store. It's the green tape, and you just rub it down really hard all around the edges. You can do this on paper or boards or whatever your painting surface. Just make sure you press down the edge really tight so that it gets into every little bit of those cracks and crevices. And don't forget the corners, because that's where paint bleeds the most, so make sure you press it down well. I'm working with acrylics today, and for those of you that know my work, I'm primarily an oil painter in landscapes. But for the purposes of a quicker demonstration, acrylics dry very fast. And so for that reason, I'll use acrylic just to make the point. I'm going to use a kind of a watercolor approach. For many, my first 35 years are known as a watercolor painter until this major earth shift happened in my life back around 2007, 2008, when I morphed over into oil painting, and the world has never looked the same since. I still love to paint in watercolors, and it's still one of my greatest passions. But I digress. Here we have acrylics, and I'm using a bright orange, and I'm mixing it with just a tint of purple, mauve, whatever you want to call it. And I'm using a broad brush because, well, two reasons. I'm a little bit lazy, and I really want to get the job done. So a broad brush puts a lot of paint on the surface and covers very quickly. But the other reason why I use a broad brush is because I really want to maximize the space before this paint dries. After all, it's acrylic and it will dry very quickly. So I really want to put as much color down on a surface, get it spread out and at the kind of value or tone or strength that I want it to be. And now I'll just add a little bit of yellow with some titanium white mixed. And you'll notice that I'm using the same brush. And yes, it does have some of that orange residue in it. And we want that because that creates a bit of a consistency in the colors as I grow into the lighter versions. It sort of keeps that warmth consistent from the dark areas out to the light areas. I'll occasionally drop in a little bit more titanium white to give a slightly lighter effect. I like to make sure that my paintings have graduations in color, but not sudden, sharp, stark graduations. I want them to be subtle. I want to sort of feather the edges of each of the color zones so that they blend together a little bit more smoothly and not to be too shocking to the eye. And here you can see that I've dropped a nice big dollop of titanium white, and that's creating the lightest zone in the sky here. And right there along the horizon line, yes, where the sun is just peeking through underneath all of those big rain clouds that are passing over. Lord knows it's a rainy enough day here in the Toronto area of Ontario, Canada. And good inspiration for this because the clouds are dark and the rain is pouring. But in my painting, the clouds are starting to clear away. And you can see that here. So I'll take some of that same titanium white and mix the yellow again and get a slightly different version of it. And paint that into the previous sections or spaces so that once again, I don't get a flat tone. I'll get a sort of a textured looking variation to the tone, and that gives a sense of realism. I'm never really aiming at complete realism. I've never been that artist who is patient enough to render those hyper-realist paintings. And to all of you who are that, I bow down and kiss the ground that you walk on, because you're astounding. And well, I just don't have the patience in me to spend the time that you do. But God bless you, because you're amazing. This same brush, yeah, same brush, haven't changed it. And once again, it's because it's got those harmonious, consistent colors that sort of pull all the parts together like the parts of a choir. You have the bass and the midsection and the altos and the tenors and everybody all singing together. Well, that's exactly what's happening with the painting, and the big fat brush working all the way through keeps things on the consistent side. Now, I know there's going to be many of you purists out there that are going to say, well, you should use different brushes, and a real artist wouldn't do that. But hey, there are no rules. There are no rules. I don't know what the rules are, at least. All I know is what I love to do, and painting a beautiful painting is really all I'm about. And so here we are, the beautiful painting. And so let's take that tape off. Isn't that going to be exciting? Look at that. That tape comes off, and that nice, clean, sharp edge suddenly appears. And what does that do? Well, that makes it easy for framing, because your frame or your framer, whoever you choose, you either do it yourself or take it to your custom framer to get it done. They'll have a guide for where you want the mat to come. And you'll notice here that as soon as I take my finger away, I put a little fingerprint on there. That I'd like to say that was intentional, but it wasn't. It was an accident. But a matting will cover that up perfectly. But I love that border also because it leaves me a little space where I can pencil in my signature, which is Robert McAfee, MCAFFEE, and you can see more of my work at robertmcafee.com. And I'll thank you with all kinds of love and appreciation for dropping in and hanging out with me here on The Robert Painter on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. See you next time.